You just got yourself the new exotic assault rifle Caduceus, that is. Now, you're looking for builds for that weapon. Don't worry, I have multiple variants that I want to show you in this video, including a tipping scale build as well. Yes, tipping scale with Caduceus does some seriously high damage and also really good healing, because the more damage you do, the more healing you're gonna get. Now, I do have some striker variants to show you, as well as a situational setup which does some seriously high damage, and also a solo variant which I took it into the PvE dark zone and I was taking out the hunters without any issue. And I also went to legendary mission to face tank those chungas over there, and I wasn't really taking any damage because I was over healing the damage they were dealing to me, which felt pretty OP, to be honest. Now, I want to apologize because I couldn't get any escalation footage. Tried it for 2 days to matchmake on tier 5 to tier 10, but nobody would join me. I can understand because of all the delta errors, people were not willing to put their tokens on the line. I tried to put mine, like I wanted to be the leader, but nobody joined me at all. So there's nothing I can do about that, but I totally understand that. I hope they will fix it soon. Now, I do want to make it up to you though. I will show you all the damage numbers in the shooting range so you can have an idea how much damage they can do. So without any further ado, let me show you all the builds. Now, as for the builds, this is obviously the tipping scale build that I'm showing you first. I will show you the striker build for group and also for like a situational setup and for solo as well. But there will be timestamp. If you want to jump there right now, you can do that. But tipping scale is a bit fun to use with the Caduceus, to be honest. We're going to be using the chest piece and the backpack because that's how we get a lot of damage from the tipping scales. So keep that in mind. We're also using a salvo holster, and overdogs will be mostly always there. If you're not playing solo, then yeah, I would highly recommend overdogs because of, you know, the amplified damage it gives you, the 30% there, which is absolutely needed for the extra damage for the build, because the more damage you do, the more healing you're gonna get from the weapon. So like I said, we're using the chest piece here with the tipping scales. For the augment, I have paradox. I highly recommend paradox on everything, by the way, especially for the tipping scale. Not for the striker though. The striker will be using different augments. For the tipping scale, I highly recommend paradox, which I will explain in a moment why. Now we have weapon damage, crit chance, and obviously, like I said, the chest piece gives us more stacks, so obviously more damage there. And same for the backpack. We actually have echo on it and not paradox because I'm kind of out of course right now, although you can easily switch this if you have plenty of course, because right now the cap is only 6, I believe, so you can easily refresh and change and see if you get the one that you need. Now for the attributes, we have weapon damage, crit chance mod, and the backpack obviously increases the stacks for the crit damage even more from 4 to 7. That's why we use it. For the mask, we have paradox here on it. Again, weapon damage, crit chance mod. And for the knee pads, we have echo, weapon damage, and a crit damage there. So that's the 4 piece of tipping scale. Now we're also using the salvo holster. It's a unit alloys piece, gives us rate of fire 5%, and also we get 5% more from the attribute. Now if you prototype this, you will get 7.5% rate of fire. So yeah, we're using the salvo. Now the reason why we're using the salvo, because of the weapon. You see, the RPM of the weapon is low. With the help of the salvo, we're at least increasing it by 10%. Now if you prototype it, that'll be 12.5, I believe. Now we're using tipping scale, so we're definitely getting the advantage of the having more mag, and also it reloads really quickly. Like look at the accuracy and stability on this gun, very good. And reload time is also just 1.4 second there, which is not bad either. So when you reload, you're not going to lose tipping scale stacks that easily, just like you would do with something like an LMG, because it reloads super quickly. And also the high magazine will help you when it comes to keeping up the stacks. Now this is one of the reasons why I recommended paradox, because with the help of paradox augment, you can actually keep firing the gun, and that 91 mag will feel like more than 150 because of the help of paradox. So if you have paradox on everything and you level it up, it's going to be perfect for that. So that's why I would recommend there. So in this way, you can keep on firing the gun, do huge amount of damage, and get huge chunks of healing as well. Now I'm going to show you how much damage you can do with this build, by the way. Like, it's not perfectly optimized. My weapon doesn't have expertise, but it's still doing really good damage. As you can see, paradox is helping me, even though I just have 2 paradox and it's not leveled up. But if you have 5 paradox and everything maxed out, it'll work, like it'll proc even more. That's all I'm trying to say. Now, once you get full stacks of tipping scales, which you can get it without even hitting the enemy, like you can shoot anywhere you want, right? So there you go, 1.8 million crits on the body when there is health, and that's happening without the weapon having a single expertise, right? You can add 30% more weapon damage on it. And then my stats are not that great. My salvo is not a prototype. If I have a perfectly maxed out build, I can guarantee you I'll be hitting more than 2.5 million crits on the body easily. And if you add echo on it, yeah, that's crazy damage, right? And you will get insane amount of healing. Like if I just damage myself right now, right? I'm gonna damage myself and I'm gonna go and shoot the gun. Look at how fast it's healing. Now, that damage number is low though. Let me get full stacks and then try to damage myself. And then you'll see how fast it heals you. It is way faster than even something like Foundry Bulwark's makeshift repair healing, which is a lot of healing, by the way, as we all know. So let me just build up the full stacks because, you know, we will lose the stacks if we're not shooting. So there's that. Okay, let me just quickly go back and shoot. Like, look at that. Look at that healing. Yeah, that is insane, I know. So that's pretty cool right there. With the more damage you do, the more healing you'll get. So if you constantly fire your gun, which you will be with Tipping Scale, you're always going to heal. Now, as for the Striker build, this is the build I am choosing right now for playing in a group, but I will show you different variants for something like playing in solo and also a situational setup that you can use in group as well. Striker is much more flexible than Tipping Scale when it comes to, you know, building it, because with Tipping Scales, you always have to use the chest piece and the backpack to get the highest damage, but that's not the case with Striker here. That's why I'm choosing the equalizer on this particular piece, I mean the variant there, so we get the 5% rate of fire from unit alloys. I have Quantum. I would recommend all Quantum or all Echo as the augment. We have a weapon damage, crit chance, and crit chance mod. And obviously we get the perfect obliterate talent, which does do a lot of damage. Now, as for the mask, we have weapon damage, crit chance mod. I have Echo as the augment there. For the holster, I have Echo augment here as well. Armor and crit damage. For the knee pads, another Echo over here. We have weapon damage and crit damage. And for the backpack, I actually have Quantum on it. We have weapon damage, crit damage, and crit chance mod. So that's the 4-piece of a Striker there, and also the unit alloys chest piece, which is the equalizer. And with this, we're going to be doing really good damage, and RPM is also really high. As you can see, 780, way better than the Tipping Scale. But we can further increase this with a different way of using it. But first, let me just show you the stats on this one. So we have crit chance similar to the Tipping Scale. Crit damage is a bit higher on this, and we will do really, really good damage. It will be a little bit less than the Tipping Scale though. Let me show you here in the shooting range, but it will be fairly easy to build up the stacks because we're not using the Striker chest piece, but the other variant does use the chest piece, and I do know that a lot of people don't like using the Striker chest piece because, you know, you have to build extra stacks there, right? And you lose it very quickly too. Now, as you can see with the full stacks of Striker and the Obliterate, we have 1.3, almost 1.4 million, you know, crits on the body when there is health on it. And the Tipping Scale was doing 1.8 million, remember. My Tipping Scale pieces were not really good like my Striker pieces are. I would say just the knee pad is bad, but otherwise every other pieces are pretty good. However, we're still doing really good damage because of the RPM, even though our damage is low than the Tipping Scale, but we're still doing fairly good amount of damage because the RPM helping us, but it's still lower damage than the Tipping Scale. Now, if you want to get close to the Tipping Scale damage or want to beat that, then you have to use the chest piece here. So I'm going to take away the equalizer and change to the chest piece. Unfortunately, I don't have a prototype chest piece for the Striker, so we're just going to stay with this for now. But with prototype, obviously, you have the option to get more damage and obviously an augment there. So yeah, so we're going to use something like this and then change the holster to the salvo here. Now, this way we're going to get 10% of rate of fire because of the set bonus. I mean, extra 5% in this case. If you prototype it, this becomes 7.5, right? But if you use it like this, your RPM is going to get even higher. Now, if we build up the stacks, but first, let's take a look at the stats on this one. You can see crit chance, crit damage, pretty good. Now, let's just build up the stacks, which will take a little bit time because we're using the chest piece there, right? As you can see, it's already taking a little bit more time there. Once you build up the full stacks, your damage obviously going to be a bit higher. And since our RPM is way more higher than the previous builds, we will actually going to beat Tipping Scale's damage, even though Tipping Scale numbers are still higher. But with the help of the RPM, we're actually beating the damage. As you can see, we're hitting 1.58, I mean, almost 1.6 million crits on the body when there is health on it. And we're doing that with 813 RPM. Now, if you have this one prototype and this one prototype, yes, it will 100% going to beat the damage of the Tipping Scale that I showed you previously. Again, not many people like using the chest piece of Striker, so that's the reason why we're not using that. But it's okay though, still with the equalizer damage was good enough. Now, if you want to talk about the solo variant, or should I show you the situational variant first? So for the situational variant, you just have to change the mask to something like the Hollow Man, because with this, you're going to get the health damage. If you're playing against health bar enemies like Chungus, Warhounds, or you're doing escalation in like the Pentagon, DARPA Labs, those things, yeah, this will be really good. Or you're fighting more other bosses, yeah, this is good. With the Caduceus, which is an assault rifle, gives you that health damage, and then the Hollow Man will also going to give you the health damage. But you do have to change the salvo holster there to the striker holster. So you will use like this, and obviously with the chest piece. So yeah, this will do really good. But like I said, it's a bit more situational setup. Now, if you want to talk about the solo variant, which I was using in Dark Zone, it is pretty simple, to be honest. You're just gonna go back to the mask. We're gonna use equalizer, because when we are solo, we don't want to use the chest piece of striker. We're gonna take away the overdogs in this case and switch it to the striker gloves, and we're just going to slap in the memento and call it a day. No, this works really good though. Even though it looks pretty easy or overused or whatever, it just works. You know, if it works, then no need to change it, right? You know, memento is going to heal you with the regen, bonus armor, plus also extra weapon damage. You're going to get the healing from Caduceus. You still have a little bit of a higher RPM because of, you know, using the equalizer chest piece there. And yeah, it works really well. I was having no issues in the Dark Zone using this build. Now, as for another way of using this, people who hate memento, yeah, there are people who would not going to use memento just because it's a memento. You can use ninja. Yes, you can use ninja, and then you can change the holster to the salvo here. This way you'll have all 3 set bonuses: extra magazine size, more RPM. Pretty good setup here, not gonna lie. Like, look at that. Look at the RPM there. We're still having the high RPM, good amount of magazine there. You can use it like this, totally fine. However, if you want more survivability, then you can just change the holster to something like the Bellstone here. So this way, you still have the assault rifle damage from the, you know, the unit alloy set, but with the help of Bellstone, you're getting extra armor on kill, a bit of passive regeneration, but with that 10% armor on kill, now you have 20% because of the gunner, so you could use it like this when you're solo, absolutely fine. So yeah, give it a try, you know, see which one fits your playstyle. That's why I showed you a bunch of variants to choose from. And if you're a new or returning player, don't think that this is prototype so that way you can't make this build. No, as long as you have the gun, which you can get it from the season, you can easily make this build with just normal a tipping scale or striker, and then you can work your way to make it prototype later on, as long as you decided which variant you will choose. Now, if you want to ask me that which one I would be using, well, if I'm using in group, I will go for the tipping scales, and if I'm solo, then I'll go for the striker with the memento variant. As long as I'm aware of my surroundings, I can use this build in whichever content I feel like, whether it's escalation, you know, legendary mission, retaliation, or even the Dark Zone, now the new PvE Dark Zone that is. So give it a go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Leave a like, subscribe maybe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Till then, peace.